What's up, Sports Wars? This is Roy coming at you with the next Sports Wars podcast. Got the same collection of hooligans and assholes that we usually have. Got my brother with me today, brother John and Aaron with us. How y'all doing tonight?
Good.
I'm good, man. It's kind of chilly this morning, 30 degrees, man.
Hey, Aaron's in Chicago. You might want to shut the fuck up about the weather. You might want to shut the fuck up.
I was going to say, I got a fun trivia question for you
guys. What's that?
So what was Peyton Manning's jersey number?
Where?
Which
team? In the NFL.
18, bro.
Both teams. He was the same. 18. What degrees do you think it is outside here?
18.
18.
God damn.
Bro, I've gotten 4 weather alerts since we've been sitting here talking, and the temperature's gonna drop into like the high 20s tonight. Like we lose our shit.
It's supposed to be cold.
Yeah, that ain't good, man.
So yeah, man. I know better than to bitch about the weather. I know Aaron is up in the Chicago area. Blizzard conditions right now. Be safe. I did want to start the episode by saying I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody ate a shit ton of food, enjoyed some football, enjoyed your time with family.
I enjoyed football on Thursday.
I didn't.
No, I didn't either.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So with that said, we're gonna jump straight into this week's game. We're gonna avoid those fucking things. How about that? We're gonna start it off. We're gonna try to streamline today. We're gonna start this off with this past week's game between the Seahawks and the Panthers. It was a pretty good game most of the way. I know Cam started 12 for 12 in the first half. He didn't miss a throw. He played great. The defense let him down, man, and the Seahawks ended up walking away with it, and they ended up winning the game and put themselves back in playoff contention. This is the Panthers', I believe, third straight loss.
Third.
Man, who's to blame here? Who's to blame for this loss?
I mean, if you want my honest opinion, man, I think it's with going to the Super Bowl and losing, having some successful seasons, going to the playoffs, losing, and then some unsuccessful seasons. It's one of those things, like, when do you make a coaching change? You
think
when do you show around the door? Yeah, and they've got talent, man, on offense. This is probably, I mean, Kelvin Benjamin had a great rookie season. There's no denying that. Like, his rookie year, he did great. Other than that, has Cam had too many, big blow the top off of defense, wide receivers? Not really. DJ Moore is a special talent. He could be great as long as he doesn't, go to all the same food spots that Kelvin Benjamin went to when he lived in the Carolinas. Yeah. But, Christian McCaffrey has been lighting it up, on the ground and in the passing game. So they've got some pieces around Cam finally, but when you've got pieces and then you're still not able to put it together, where do you look? Usually coaching is where you start, right?
Oh yeah. What do you think, John? What did you think about this game?
I think the problem with Cam, man, is he doesn't have a backup plan. Looking at the stats, Christian McCaffrey had 125 yards rushing and 112 yards receiving. The next closest person to him is DJ Moore with 91 receiving, and then the next person after that is Jarius Wright at 25 yards. Greg Olsen, which is the tight end, is usually everybody's security blanket. He only got 11 yards. So
I've seen him drop some crucial passes too that game.
I didn't really watch the game, so I'm solely relying on the stats that I'm looking up to kind of back me up.
No,
here.
where I live, the noon games, they always show 2 on 2 different channels. So I had
we getting that too.
Yeah, I had that game and the Patriots Jets game, which I had, other than fantasy purposes, I had no interest in. But that Seahawks-Panthers game was probably the best game I watched that day that I was actually able to watch from front to back. It was a really exciting game, back and forth. But, hopefully we don't have to harp on Carolina's woes too much and give some credit to Seahawks pulling out the victory in the end there, man, because Seahawks have been playing some ball lately.
Yeah, Seattle has definitely. I know they've stepped up lately. They've. I want to say with Carolina going 3 games, losing their last 3. I want to say Seahawks have bounced back. I think they're at least like 2-1 in the last. Yeah, 2-2 and over the last 4, but the last 2 wins have been against Green Bay and Carolina. Carolina does have a chance to kind of stop that free fall this upcoming weekend. They do go to Tampa Bay, which Tampa is Tampa. But kind of going back to Aaron's point about is it time to make a change? I know a name that we've been hearing for probably 20, 30 years now. He was made the offensive coordinator for Carolina this year. Cam is having success like he's never had before. Could Norv Turner be the guy that takes over?
Nah, maybe.
I mean, how often does that happen, man? And I'm actually asking. I'm not saying that in like a sarcastic way or anything, but like, how often does a coach get fired and the offensive coordinator is named the head coach right away?
I know it happened in Tampa.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the only other time I can think of it off the top of my head, but
I don't see how you could, seeing what Cam has done this year and the improvements that he's made, I just don't see, because if you fire Ron Rivera, typically when a coach gets fired, they take their whole staff with them. It's very rare that the new coach keeps the offensive coordinator.
It's going to be an interesting offseason, man, because I feel like, Green Bay's coach is on the hot seat. Marvin Lewis is on the hot seat. Ron Rivera could be. We can't say that for sure. We're just speculating right now. There's going to be some swapping and some shifting around, man.
Of Carolina's next 5 games to close out the year, 3 of them are against teams with losing records. But 2 of them are against the Saints, who swept the Panthers last year. So realistically, they could end up 9-7, which I got to think after starting as hot as they did.
What did y'all say about that division before the season started? It's the toughest division in football.
Yeah, I mean, it was after last year.
Hey, hold on. We talking about the NFC South, right?
Yeah.
It's been a rough year.
Yeah.
Everybody's allowed. Yeah.
It ain't much different up here. That's kind of funny because we were saying those 2 divisions, NFC North and NFC South, were the toughest. Which one's better? Which one's tougher? But really, it's the Saints kind of running it all, and ours right now. It's the Bears up, 2 games, and we got the Detroit is Detroit, and Green Bay looks like shit. So it's the divisions are kind of mirroring each other. So
yeah, whereas Tampa looks like shit, and it's funny because still. The only team to beat New Orleans this year has been Tampa. So
crazy.
Moving on to the next game for this past weekend, another one that it actually was a better game that nobody kind of expected it to be a really good game, but the end was kind of a shock, and it was the Steelers and the Broncos. With the Broncos pulling it out there at the end, which was crazy to me. The Case Keenum hung with them. What a lot of people like to say that the Steelers are one of the more explosive offenses in the league, but they couldn't. The Steelers couldn't put up more than 17 points. Question for y'all, kind of also on top of your thoughts towards this game, are the Steelers the most inconsistent good team in the league at 7-3-1?
That.
So I was listening to Undisputed podcast earlier, and they were talking about Ben Roethlisberger and saying that he's a type of guy that you love to hate. He'll make that attempt to make that huge play, but then that huge play could turn into a turnover. And I think that's where, that's where they fall, is that their record does it reflect Ben doing that? Is their record, him trying to make those big plays and they just happen to fall where he needs them to fall? But then again, it's going to be Ben being Ben, and it's going to end up screwing him over.
I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, they really have one quality win this year, and that's against Carolina. And we saw what they did to Carolina. And like you said, Big Ben will make a play, and you're like, how the fuck did he do that? Like the 97-yard pass to Juju. Shout out to Juju for that. That shit locked up my both fantasy league. 97 yards, man. I think I got like 30 points off of that one play alone. But then you see him come out there.
Was that Juju making a play, or was that Ben lacing one in there? Because I didn't catch it.
Ben threw that shit off his back foot as he was being tackled. That shit he just blindly
threw it up there and was hoping somebody got it.
Yeah, much like the one that actually ended the game when he threw the fucking interception to the defensive tackle.
Yeah, so I mean that's perfect Ben being Ben.
Yeah, and Brett Favre made a career off of doing the exact same thing though.
Yeah, and that's also what they said on that podcast too, was that he's got a circus of receivers that can make all types of circus plays. Now, I know we've had this debate in the group in a long time as far as who's number one, Antonio Brown or Julio Jones. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole different podcast. But Julio, we know Antonio Brown, what he can do. And Juju Smith-Schuster is getting to that level. Not saying he's on that level, but he's getting to that level.
And I mean, he's like on the – I don't know. I might put him on the – basically the way I look at it is Ben's got two number one receivers.
Yes.
He's got two number one receivers. Juju could go to another team and easily be a number one. I mean, hands down.
I mean, hell, in a lot of games this year, he has been the number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh's one of those situations where we're just going to have to wait and see when it comes, down to the stretch for playoff time, because I don't think any of us could really realistically make, what they are. Like, we don't know. We don't know what to make of them until that time comes. And they inevitably played, New England.
I think in the next month we're going to get a glimpse of exactly what Pittsburgh is. Through the next 4 games are some tough ones. But 2 of those are fucking duds. Moving on to the next matchup for this past weekend. It was one that we weren't originally going to talk about, but it kind of jumped out to me after looking at some of the numbers here. It was the Colts versus the Dolphins. I know that's kind of a not one we expected to really talk about because the Colts are seemingly coming out of nowhere. But Andrew Luck is fucking on it this year. Fuck the Dolphins. I know the talk this year has been focused on Breeze and Mahomes and Goff, but is there any quarterback hotter than Andrew Luck right now, Aaron?
I mean, yes and no. No, because, I like Andrew Luck. I like his play style. I love the guy, man. But, I mean, yeah, there is other hot quarterbacks, obviously, like, a couple of the ones you just named. But nobody's talking about them. Nobody's talking about Andrew Luck the way they should be, so. I wasn't going to say –
your shameless plug for old biscuits.
No, not at all, man. We're talking about a completely different level of
Well, Biscuits isn't having a bad year, but I don't know that I'd put him at
but I just
golf right now.
Right, I was going to say, like, you're talking Breeze, Mahomes, like you're talking guys that are legit in the MVP race, and Andrew Luck's slowly, quietly making a case for why he could be in the conversation of MVP if his season keeps going the way it's going right now.
They said this is what, the 8th game with 3 or more touchdowns?
Yep.
Yeah. He is quietly balling out. If his team was better than 6-5 right now, he would absolutely be in the conversation. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
John, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I'm there with you too. He's one of those he's at the end of the line, but he's in the line, if that makes sense. I mean, 8 straight games with 3 or more passing touchdowns. Like you said, if their record is better, they'd be talking about it more. But right now, I think Breeze, Mahomes, and Goff, as far as quarterbacks, and I know I said that Goff, I think, isn't it? But whatever, however you say it. As far as quarterbacks, yeah, they're the ones that are up there in this conversation.
So let me ask you guys this, though, because when we did our, one of the guys in the groups, I think it was Joey Reeves, did every division before the season started. We all get to pick who we thought was going to win the division in separate posts. And when it came to the AFC South, and a couple of people had picked the Colts, and a lot of people's reaction were why Andrew Luck hasn't played football in 2 years. So, but my question was like, okay, I mean, he didn't forget how to play football. He was injured, but it's not like he forgot how to do what he did. Like, does him playing this way? Okay, yeah, he came back from an injury, but does him playing the way he's playing right now actually shock you guys? I mean, dude, we're talking about Andrew Luck. Didn't the dude have like a 5,000-yard season?
I mean, I wouldn't say it shocked me because I knew he was capable of this. I wasn't expecting because the surgery the injury he was coming back from, it's not bullshit. It's not like, oh, he stubbed his toe on his fucking $1 million coffee table. He was coming back from some serious shit. And if you look at the first, I don't know, the first handful of games, excuse me, he was trying to come back from, he was still trying to get into game speed. Like the first game they lost. I mean, it seems like so long ago that the Bengals were a solid team. But they lost their first game to the Bengals.
And you got some other pieces there that we're also trying to get in place too. I mean, they got that rookie from Notre Dame, Quentin Nelson at guard, like protecting for him, and their offensive line. It seemed like it took a couple of games for them to all kind of like.
I feel like this division. I know everybody's talking about like the NFC South being kind of a letdown this year. I feel like this division has really been kind of a letdown. The AFC South. Mainly because now with the Colts doing their thing, I was kind of hoping that the Jaguars would continue doing their thing, and then the Titans would kind of hang around, and now the Texans are back.
I heard something on ESPN radio this morning, and I'll never remember who said it, but there was a female reporter that was talking about the Jaguars a couple of weeks back. And she said that the Jaguars, like the Jaguars are going to be good. Like the Jacksonville's finally a good team. And since she said that, they haven't won a game.
Oh no, I actually was listening to the same thing. It wasn't a female reporter. There's a show on NBC. I don't know the name of it. Ted Danson's on it. I can't remember the name.
Oh, yeah.
And they were joking around that they did a comedy bit. Like apparently he changed something in a timeline or some shit. And she was joking around. She's like, I don't know what you did, but the Jaguars are finally good. Blake Bortles is okay. And since that episode aired, the Jaguars are 0-7.
Yeah.
Man, Rebecca's going to kick my ass. I know she doesn't listen, but she watches that show, and I cannot think of the name of it.
I'm not even going to take the time to Google that shit. But yeah, Luck's playing out of his mind right now. I'm looking forward to the next Texans Colts matchup, which takes place in 2 weeks. Ironically enough, the last time the Texans and the Colts played each other, it went to overtime and the Texans won by 3 points. So, that one was in Indy. The next matchup is going to be in Houston.
The Texans are on fire right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. There's not many teams hotter than they are right now. Maybe the Saints.
It's called the Good Place.
The Good Place. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shout out to Rebecca because I know we just texted her.
No, I just Googled it.
Okay. Moving on to the next matchup. This is probably my favorite one of the weekend. Mainly because anytime Aaron Rodgers gets the shit kicked out of him, I'm okay with it. I know Aaron probably felt a little dirty, simply because that means it was the Vikings doing the kicking the shit out of. But the Vikings-Packers played this weekend. It was an ugly game for the Packers. The Vikings won 24-17. Is this loss fucking finally Aaron Rodgers' fault?
I just want somebody to ask me what I think of when someone asks me about the Packers.
What do you think of when somebody asks you about the Packers, Aaron?
When I say weak ass, you say bitch. Weak ass.
Oh, man, 3-6 Mafia.
Yeah, no. So did you guys see that stuff that he said after the game? And he listed every game that they have remaining on their schedule, and he said that they're all wins. He said we can go into Chicago, a place that we win a lot, and we can win there. You know, we can win all these other games. Like, here's the thing. He's not wrong necessarily, but I don't necessarily believe that they're going to run the table the rest of the season.
I mean, even if they did, the best they can do is 9-6-1.
Right. And that's, and just to talk about the Bears for like a split second, I see two more wins in the Bears schedule. They still got to play. They play the Giants this weekend. They play the 49ers in a couple weeks also. So you're looking at a 10-win Bears team, most likely, maybe 11. Who knows, man? But is it? Do you think it's Aaron Rodgers' fault this time that they lost this game? Is it a combination of McCarthy?
I'm gonna let John answer.
Defense that hasn't been good, and who knows how long.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think it is Aaron's fault. Looking at Roy's favorite website, Pro Football Reference, this is his lowest game as far as passing yards, with 198 this year. His second lowest was 199 but they won that game, and that was against Miami. As it's been argued to the ground, Aaron Rodgers is not the GOAT and should never be considered the GOAT and should never be in that conversation. At least not without having a handful of guys in front of him.
Well,
one of them guys is, at least two of them I fucking hate, which is Tom Brady and Drew Brees.
Well, I'm going to end the conversation with a stat that I pulled out for the fellas was it last night before? During this game. Aaron Rodgers is 0 for 37 when trailing going into the fourth quarter by more than 1 point against winning teams. That's not my GOAT. GOAT's got to be able to pull out wins. There's no other 0-37. 37. Holy shit. Like I had to triple check that to make sure that was right. And the only time that somebody tried to check my numbers yesterday in the group and actually tried to use your Bears to do it. 2013, for like 5 years ago, he was like, there was a week 13 game. They were actually trailing 21-20 in that game. And the Bears were 8-7. So barely a winning record, barely losing. So closing that last week's games out with that little fun fact. Please argue with me down in the comments. I love it. Aaron Rodgers he can't be better than Brady if he's not better than Breeze. And he can't be better than Breeze if he's not better than Peyton Manning or Joe Montana. So fuck out of here. Next week's games. We're gonna jump straight into next week's games. And to another.
Can I just say one thing?
What's up?
Can I just have one more thing?
Go for it.
Just what would it feel like to be really be a Packers fan and know that you've got 2 plus decades, 2 decades plus a few of just legitimate Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Shit, and almost 3 at this point.
Yeah, and 2 Super Bowls to show for it.
You can ask Brandon.
Can we though?
This is his team.
I mean,
when they're good, that's.
I agree with you. Like, Brett Favre joined the Packers in what, 91, 92?
Yeah,
and 2018. So almost 30 years of quarterback, of two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and you've got.
And obviously, I'm not trying to talk shit because the Bears haven't had one since 1985,
but still, the Bears also haven't had a Hall of Fame quarterback since
ever. Actually, ever.
Hey, the fucking Falcons don't even have one at all.
Yeah, we do.
That's a. Hey, you know what?
Do we?
I've got my own thoughts about a Falcons quarterback that I feel like is a Hall of Famer, but a lot of people disagree with it. But whatever.
Well, we're gonna leave that for the next podcast. Where probably next podcast we'll probably take questions. By all means, ask Aaron specifically that question because I think I know who he's talking about.
Goddamn right, I'm talking about Mike Vick.
We're going to jump straight into next week's games. We're going to try to make it as quick as we can because we have I got a big talk here at the end that I'm dying to get to get with the guys about.
All right, so how about we do this? Next week's games, we just say win or loss.
All right. Well, I also want to hear your quick thoughts about because some of these I went with just one of them I went with a little deeper analysis.
We'll just give everybody 10 seconds. We'll count it down.
All right. Saints Cowboys, this Thursday night game. Can Dallas hang with the Saints at all?
Absolutely not.
Aaron?
I think they can hang with them. I don't think they win though. I think New Orleans wins by 15 or so.
You think Dak Prescott can go score with Breeze?
No, I just meant more so the Cowboys defense is playing a lot better than people were giving them credit for, and
I agree.
I think that they make it interesting, and the Saints pull away. Obviously, I think the Saints are going to bash them, but I think that the Cowboys hang with them for a quarter or two.
Okay.
All
right. I also agree. I think the Saints are going to. The defense is going to get winded, and Breeze is just going to put. I expect Breeze to put like 21 points on them in like the second half of the third quarter and most in the fourth.
And people have to understand how hard this is for us to do this. Shit.
Yes, don't get me wrong. I hate the fucking Cowboys and the Saints, so it sucks for me here. Next game, jumping straight into the next one: Vikings Patriots. Is this a must-win for Minnesota? Even though Minnesota just beat the Packers. In order for them to kind of keep pace with the Bears, is this a must-win? The Vikings record is currently 6-4-1. A loss here obviously would take them to 6-5-1, and another game back of the Kings of the North, Chicago. I'll start with John because I definitely want to hear Aaron's thoughts on this. Is this a must-win for Minnesota?
Well, you kind of broke up there on me there, so I'm assuming you called me to go first.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a must-win for Minnesota for them to stay competitive with Chicago. Do they win it? I don't think so. Is this game in Minnesota or is it in?
It is in Foxborough.
Yeah, no. I say Minnesota keeps it close, but New England's Brady's gonna be Brady, and he's gonna win it.
Aaron?
Almost exactly what John said. I think every game for Minnesota the rest of the year is a must-win game if they have plans on winning the NFC North. But, dude, in New England, I think the Patriots are going to win. I'm going to be a big Patriots fan this weekend. I want them to win, obviously, but that Patriots defense is kind of trash. So it's kind of going to be all up to Brady, I think.
Just as to the last 5 games for the Vikings, at New England, at Seattle, Miami comes to Minnesota, at Detroit, and then they close the season out against the Bears. It's gonna be a good.
That's three losses that they could take.
What Pat, Seahawks, and Bears?
Patriots, Seahawks, and Bears are 3 very losable games for Minnesota. Yeah,
so
very
that's
losable.
6 and so that would put them 7
They have
losses.
a better chance against the Seahawks than they do anybody else.
7 losses is tough, man. I mean 8, 7, and 1. All right, moving on to the next game this week. The last of the ones we're going to preview this week. It's two pretty hot teams. Obviously, barring Pittsburgh's last week's performance. The Chargers and Pittsburgh. Chargers and the Steelers. Before I ask y'all who's going to win, I did want to throw out an interesting stat that I found. Did y'all know that the Chargers have only won 1 game against a team with a winning record this year, and that was the Seahawks? The Steelers have only won 2 games against teams with winning records, and one of those teams didn't have a winning record when they played, and that was the Ravens. Can you guess the other team?
No.
Panthers. These are 2 teams that have feasted off of a favorable schedule. I think a win here is more important for the Chargers than Pittsburgh, just simply based on the division that they're in. Who y'all got? Pittsburgh or LA? Have I called them San Diego during this?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
No.
Steelers or Chargers, Aaron? Who you got?
This is actually an interesting matchup, man, but I'm going to take Phillip Rivers and the Chargers in this one.
You think the Steelers dropped 2 in a row?
This one's too close for me to actually say what I think is going to happen. I'm just giving you, I just want to see the Chargers win.
All right, John.
I'm the same way. I don't like the Steelers, and there's no way around that. I think Phillip Rivers is he's having a pretty good year, even though what you mentioned kind of makes it sound shitty. But they're I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Chargers, man, and they're not giving them the respect that they need because of the team that's
history
in LA. Yeah,
Completely
and
disagree.
also because of the Rams.
I wholeheartedly disagree with what you said about people sleeping on the Chargers. I see what you mean, and maybe to the naked eye that could be true, but I think for people like us, this is the same Chargers we've seen how many times now. They get a good record, they go to the playoffs, and what do? So I think it's just regular football fans are kind of just like, okay, yeah, the Chargers are doing good again, but they're just gonna let it all go away anyway, like they do every time.
Yeah.
I do think that this is probably a must win for the Chargers. They end the season against the obviously last 5 were at Steelers, Cincinnati with no Andy Dalton, at Kansas City, Baltimore comes to Los Angeles, and then at Denver to finish the season. The Chargers, last I checked, were firmly in control of the AFC wild card, which basically just means they get to go to probably looks like they probably go to Pittsburgh if they they would go to they would go to Houston if the playoffs started now. Excuse me. So this could be a playoff matchup. Who knows? I definitely like the Chargers here. I know I just said that it looks like Pittsburgh has pretty much got this division locked up, but Baltimore's charging. I think they're 2-0 in the last 2 games with Lamar Jackson starting. So they it's kind of hard to see. Pittsburgh definitely needs to snap out of it, but I would like to see the Chargers take it. Now, moving on to the last, I won't say last part of the podcast, but the one I've been most looking forward to. I know usually we don't talk a lot of college football.
Before we get started, Aaron is going to need to change his attire.
Okay, hold on.
I don't think I haven't noticed, bitch.
There we go.
You know how the Bears gear got tucked away this week, and then we got to deal with the fucking flags and shit.
It ain't never far.
But yeah, we're gonna. I don't know if I want to lead with the essentially the college football playoff play-in game. So I'm actually going to start with the lower teams here. We'll start with the ACC championship game, Clemson versus Pittsburgh. Everybody gives Alabama shit for having a cupcake schedule. I don't hear anybody talking shit about Clemson about it, which kind of pisses me off. Even though I'm not an Alabama fan, so I don't give a fuck. But the implication is that the SEC schedules cupcakes and no one else does, which is bullshit. What are y'all's thoughts on the ACC championship game, Clemson versus Pittsburgh?
Go ahead, Aaron.
I mean, I think Clemson takes this one rather easily. I don't know much about Pittsburgh.
Remember, this is the same Pittsburgh team that beat Clemson last year 43-42 in, I believe it was in Death Valley.
Well, then you've got a Clemson team who's played good ball all year and then has that on the back of their mind. We're going in to play the same people that beat us at home.
Yeah. John?
So,
I mean, as much as I'd like what that post you mentioned earlier about chaos, as much as I'd love that, I don't see Pittsburgh causing the chaos. I think Clemson, they roll away with this
easily.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since that one was pretty easy, let's move on to the one that I think should probably be even easier. But to me, one that should not have any playoff implications whatsoever. The Big Ten championship game, Ohio State versus Northwestern. Who do you got, John?
I mean, I think Ohio State's going to win that game, and like you said, I don't think that should matter. Ohio State, in my opinion, should not be considered in this playoff race. Fuck Urban Meyer. Fuck Ohio State. No.
Aaron?
yeah, man. I mean, Ohio State's playing the 21st ranked team in the nation as their championship game. I mean, I don't know, man. It's Northwestern, Like I was telling you before we went on the air, Northwestern's kind of the only college team in the state of Illinois that ever makes any traction in the rankings here and there. But I don't know, man. It's Northwestern. Like, it's 21st ranked Northwestern playing Ohio State. I mean, it's kind of like I mean, the best example I can think of is when Alabama played Notre Dame in the championship game a couple years back. It's like you're talking about a team that's filled with grown men versus some college kids.
I mean, Northwestern is essentially Duke North.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to take shots at Northwestern or
no, not at all.
But I mean, it's just it's 21st ranked Northwestern playing number 6 Ohio State.
So. What I mean by that is, I mean, Northwestern is by far an academic school first. They're not. I mean, if they win, the campus is going to go fucking nuts. The overall record between these teams is Ohio State leads the head-to-head matchups. 61 wins, 1 tie, and to 14 losses. The largest margin of victory was 70-6. Ohio State beat Northwestern in 1981. Now, the last time that Northwestern beat Ohio State was in 2004. They beat them.
Jesus.
Yeah, 2004. And they beat them at Northwestern's home field, 33-27.
That was my first year in the Army.
Back old Jim Tressel was still the head coach at Northwestern. But since then, it hasn't been close. They didn't play each other. They've actually only played each other once in the last 5 years, and that was at Northwestern and Ohio State in 2013, and Ohio State won 40-30. Before that, they hadn't played since 2008. So they don't play that often to be division, to be in the same conference. But I do agree with y'all. I do think that Northwestern, if the perfect storm happened, sure. Purdue beat Ohio State earlier this year. So it didn't just beat them; they blew them the fuck out. So,
yeah, and they were unranked. So
I do think Ohio State wins it, but I don't give a fuck if they win it by 70-6. They shouldn't have a shot at the playoff.
And the reason why is because of the game you just mentioned.
Yes,
and that's how it should. I mean, for the committee and all that stuff, like, you want to talk about like should Oklahoma doesn't play defense. They really don't. But Oklahoma's been consistent all year with their offense and how they've beaten teams. And Ohio State hasn't been consistent on offense and defense all year. And they got mollywopped by unranked Purdue. I mean, they didn't lose the game by a field goal or a touchdown. They got their asses whipped.
Yeah, this wasn't one that they snuck.
Unranked Purdue. So that's in my eyes the worst loss of the year for any team.
Okay, so I got a question for y'all. When you consider, this is something I was going to post in the group. When you consider strength of schedule, do you consider the rank at the time of the win, or do you consider the rank at the end of the year?
I actually
a little bit of both.
Yeah, because you have to look at it because it's easy to go back and like Alabama's a good example. Last year when they beat the fucking dog shit out of Florida State to open the season. Florida State was ranked like what, third at the time?
Yeah.
And
they ended up, I think, finished the year unranked.
Yeah, and a lot of it had to do with the tone that Alabama set to begin that year. Obviously, that also had a lot to do.
Yeah, Francois went down there.
Yeah, and it also had to do with that. Francois going down hurt, and it just excuse me, it didn't look well for him for the rest of the season. Or for the rest of the year, and the Florida State program has been on a fucking nosedive since.
Yeah.
So thanks Bama for that. So I mean it's just, I look at it as what they're ranked, where they're ranked at the time and kind of where they finish, because obviously you have to have both parts of it. I want to say ESPN is really good about like if you look up the team schedules, they're really good about giving you the ranking of what the team was when they played them. But moving on to the next matchup, this one has to me it should have more playoff implications, just because based on who the last game we're going to talk about, the Big 12 championship game. It's the Red River Shootout Part 2. Texas versus Oklahoma. They have already played once this year, and Texas pulled out a 3-point win. It was obviously it's a neutral site game, so they play in Dallas, as neutral as Dallas, Texas can be for the Texas-Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
It's about as neutral as Jacksonville, Florida for the
Georgia game. Yeah.
So I actually just found a really cool website that is going to give me the head-to-head matchup in this for the history It's 62 wins for Texas, 5 ties, and 46 wins for Oklahoma. So Texas wins they have the head-to-head matchup.
Really?
Yeah, Texas actually has the overall head-to-head matchup, and they actually have the
I wonder if Jenna knows that.
Oh yeah, trust me, Jenna knows that.
Jenna and Caleb.
Yeah, they know that. But I mean, if you look at it though, these two teams they trade like 5 or 6 years of dominance. Although the last
when you
5
say
years,
dominance, you mean dominance with each other, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Where you'll have there was a stretch there in the early 2000s where Oklahoma won 5 straight. Like the longest win streak amongst these two teams, Texas won 8 straight in the fucking 40s, and Oklahoma won 6 straight in the 50s. So the longest win streak by Oklahoma in the series is 6, and the longest by Texas is 8. So they kind of balance each other out. Obviously, if Oklahoma wins, they have a chance to slide into the playoff. Who do y'all think takes this? Does Texas repeat, or does Oklahoma play for what's really on the line? John?
Oh, man, I don't know, man. I mean, I kind of want Texas to win it because then that doesn't change. Like, it doesn't mess with the rankings too much. Obviously, if Oklahoma wins it, it could potentially bump them in there. If some other issues happen. But yeah, man, I wouldn't mind seeing Texas win this game.
Caleb's gonna be pissed off at you. Aaron, what do you think?
Man,
he's still gonna be pissed off at me too. But I wanted to read this tweet to you guys. I grew up an Oklahoma fan. I attended my first game when I was 5, but I cannot defend a defense that ranks 127th out of 130 schools and passing yards allowed. This is an embarrassment. Kyler should win Heisman, nation's best offense, but I cannot argue Ohio University is a playoff team. Or excuse me, I cannot argue OU is a playoff team. That's a tweet from Skip Bayless about 40 minutes ago.
Skip Bayless is a fucking Texas homer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said he grew up an Oklahoma fan. But
fuck out of here.
127th out of 130 schools and passing yards allowed. So like I said, Oklahoma doesn't play any defense, man.
That's fucking rough.
Skip Bayless is
no defense.
That's Big 12 football.
But
that's Big 12 football.
Their offense is something serious, but I don't know, man. Even though I think it would be a stretch for Texas to win both games this year, I just get like a whiff in the air of an upset, like just a little one. So I'm gonna take the Texas Froghorns or Loghorns or Longhorns or whatever.
I mean, Texas is ranked 9th, so it wouldn't be a major upset. And they did already win earlier this year by 3 points. So I mean, I'm hoping for a good game. I actually disagree with John. I don't think Oklahoma. I would hate for Texas to win because that gives all the fucking Ohio State whiners. They're going to want Ohio State in above whoever.
Yeah, but I don't think Ohio State can get past that fucking Purdue loss, dude.
I guess okay. Then that opens up the next debate: Alabama versus Georgia. This one is at the scene of the crime of last year's crime. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium SEC championship game. Kind of piggybacking on what we've been talking about, the head-to-head record between Alabama and Georgia. Alabama leads the series 39-25 with 4 ties. The current streak is 4. which has lasted 10 years because these two teams don't play each other that often. The last time Georgia won was in 2007, and we actually beat Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa, 26-23. It's probably like the last fucking time they've lost in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, wasn't that his first year?
I believe so.
Or was that 06? Yeah, it was 07.
Because the next year was the infamous blackout game where Georgia was ranked like number 1, and we had Stafford, we had AJ Green, we had Noshawn Marino, and Mark Rick decided, hey, let's have a blackout in Athens, and then we lost 41-30. And we actually haven't beat Alabama since. The
last time we won was 2018, right?
What?
The SEC championship.
This
man's got a point.
So I mean, we've listen. Last time we played in regular season was
just a couple of years ago, right?
2015.
Yeah.
We actually lost 38-10. So I mean, although we had another classic game happened in 2012, the last time we played in the SEC championship game against each other, and Alabama did win that 32-28. I remember it because that was the game the Aaron Murray pass got batted down at the end. Well, it got tipped up, and instead of the wide receiver batting it down to stop the clock, he caught it and got tackled in bounds, and the clock ran out. We were marching down the field. I'll say it was Aaron Murray's junior year. The winner of that game was going to go on to play Notre Dame, and that was the year Notre Dame got fucking destroyed. And shout out to Nick Saban. He actually, after that game was over, he actually said, "Why don't we just Georgia and Alabama line up again, and let's just play for the national championship." So that was a really good game. Although it didn't end well for us. The last two. Also, the last or two of the last 3 times we played, it's been made me sick to my stomach. We know. Look, we know who's going to pick who in this, so I'm not even going to ask Alabama or Georgia to either y'all or to myself. We know who's going to pick. We got we got flags hanging up in the background. I got a painting behind me.
What?
So what I am going to ask is there any way possible that Alabama is not in the playoff?
Man, if Georgia goes in there and wins that game and say they win it by a field goal, I don't see how that could put Alabama out of the playoffs. Now, I know you said you don't want to talk about the game too much, but I will say this. I would love, obviously a different outcome, but I would love for the game that we had last year. Because that national championship was fucking amazing. Obviously, up until the end, it fucking sucked. But it was a great game.
It definitely earned its place among like all-time classics.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was great. That and the Rose Bowl was great.
Well, the Rose Bowl, I think, is more classic for us than it is for Oklahoma fans.
Yeah, true. But, yeah, I mean, I don't see how – number 1 Alabama going undefeated all year, losing in the SEC championship to a ranked number 4 team puts them out.
Okay, so another, just putting this out there. Say Alabama loses by 3, and Oklahoma proceeds to blow out Texas by 40. Does Oklahoma jump Alabama? Is there any way possible? Because that's the only scenario I can see is Oklahoma has a chance to jump Alabama because Ohio State doesn't.
The problem that's throwing a wrench in all this bullshit is these raggedy ass goddamn Notre Dame. Nobody wants them there, dude. You're not in a conference.
Notre Dame fans want them there.
I know. Yeah. I made this post earlier and it blew up. Dude, you're not in a conference. Like you said, you got all these teams playing their best fucking game to try to get into this playoff.
Except
while
for
these
Clemson.
motherfuckers are sitting there. And of course, you got people that are saying, "Oh, well, Alabama didn't play for their championship last year." Well, that's because they had one loss, and that one loss, prevented them from being in the championship. We had to play Auburn. Auburn, had them. So, I mean, I don't see the committee. I want to, but I don't see the committee putting two SEC teams in the championship again like they did last year, because then those two teams will just play each other for the championship unless they play in the first round together.
So the Oklahoma thing, getting in whatever you just said, the reason why I don't think they do is because even if Alabama lost or whatever however that scenario was you just set up, I mean, UCLA hung up 21 on Oklahoma. Iowa State only lost to Oklahoma 37-27. Army they beat Army by 7 points, 28-21. Got beat by Texas, by a couple points. TCU hung up 30 on them. Texas Tech put 46 up on Oklahoma.
Do we know
Oklahoma State?
Look at?
Yeah, Oklahoma State was within 1 point of tying or almost winning that game, and Kansas put up 40 on Oklahoma. West Virginia put up 59-56 over West Virginia. I mean, Oklahoma.
If Alabama plays Oklahoma in the first round, how many touchdowns does Tua have?
There's no way that they could. But that's the thing. Like, if Alabama lost to Georgia and Oklahoma beats number 9, or what is Texas number 9?
Yeah.
Beats number 9 Texas? No. Alabama, if anything, drops to what? 4?
Yeah. I think Alabama would drop to 4
or 3.
That would move everybody
or even
up.
3. Yeah. So it'd be what? Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, Alabama. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
So you would get Clemson, Notre Dame, or Clemson, Alabama for like the 4th year in a fucking row.
Yeah.
And then you would get Georgia, Notre Dame. We played each other last year, and Georgia won in Jake Fromm's first start in South Bend. So I think we would be.
I don't think a 1-loss Alabama, and that 1 loss being to Georgia.
If Georgia and Alabama end up in the SEC or in the playoff together, I think we're going to get our 3rd Georgia-Alabama game in a calendar year. So just because,
yeah.
And guess what? I'm not going to be sick of seeing it.
No, I won't either. Unless, I guess I wouldn't be sick of seeing it either, because if we're in it, that means that we beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. Which means the deciding game of the 3-game series would be for the national title. So just kind of going over, I know they released the rankings tonight. I did have some thoughts about that. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. Is there any way Alabama isn't in? Is there any, and to go along with that, I know we keep saying, if Alabama loses by a field goal. The reason I keep saying that, an amazing stat that I stumbled across, the entire time that Nick Saban has been at Alabama, they have never lost by more than 14 points. Not at home. They've never lost by 14 on the road. They've never lost by 14 in a bowl game. They've never lost by more than 14. Nick Saban's Alabama teams do not get blown out, period. So that's why if Georgia has a chance, it's going to have to be a close game. Last year's game was close. I want to say one of the Georgia players actually came out this week and said that they got fucked by Tua. That they didn't study Tagovailoa enough. So when he came in, that fucked up the whole shit. They hadn't game plan for him. So we know, obviously, Alabama fans know what kind of coach Kirby is. He led that defense for years and years. So if anybody could prepare, it's going to be Kirby. So
the reason why I like seeing this game and wouldn't have a problem seeing it over and over again is just because it's two fan bases that I don't think that there's real like hatred between them. You know what I mean? Like
No.
there's a lot of mutual respect between the two teams. Alabama has no reason to hate Georgia, and I don't really think Georgia has.
No, and I think it starts at the top. It starts with the coaches, man. Kirby,
Yeah.
he respects and admires Nick Saban. That wasn't a Lane Kiffin situation where he failed.
Yeah, there ain't nobody running around poisoning the hedges.
No,
You know,
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it wasn't a Lane Kiffin situation where he kind of left on bad terms. Nick Saban has come out many times and said as professed his love that he's got for Kirby. Kirby was with him almost every stop of his coaching career after LSU. So I mean, Nick Saban loves Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart absolutely loves and respects Nick Saban, and the fan base is kind of.
Did y'all see that video that they shared? Somebody shared in the group. Apparently, a reporter asked Nick Saban about that kid being out for the first half, asking him about the defenses they're going to run, missing him and all that, and he was like, "Well, why don't?" It was about something about telling Kirby, and you need to watch it, man. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was kind of funny.
So I mean, yeah, man, this game is. If we've got any casual, I know our main man Pat is kind of a casual college football fan. To any of the other casual college football fans that watch the podcast, if you're going to get into any football game, if college football, if you have a chance, any kind of thought about college football, watch Georgia Alabama this weekend. It will. The only way it could be better if it was played in Athens or Tuscaloosa. But it's a neutral site. It's in Atlanta. It's going to be.
Again, I don't know how neutral that is. That's just where the SEC championship.
Tell me, Alabama fans don't travel.
They're going to, but come on.
Oh yeah, it's not neutral. That's literally
Atlanta, Georgia.
Outside the stadium, it's not Athens. Fucking neutral. Don't get me wrong. It's
so. What's the final? I don't know if you guys can do it. I don't know if you guys want to, but I'll just say. Alabama over Georgia 34-28 is my prediction.
I don't want to jinx it, man. I will say if at halftime, if the deficit is smaller than 7, I like Georgia. Regardless of who's winning, if it's smaller than 7 at the half, I like Georgia. As it stands right now, Alabama is favored by 13.5, and that actually went up because Georgia was favored by 8.5, but everybody is fucking betting on Alabama, so it drove the point spread up because they're trying to get people to bet on Georgia and take those points. So if I was taking the point, if I was a bet man and taking those points, I would absolutely take Georgia in 13.5.
I can tell you what I want. All I want is for the clock to read 0 and Georgia to have at least one more point than fucking Alabama. That's all I care about.
That's it, man. I would love to win. Because if you look at it, this is essentially a play-in game for the playoff. Yeah, whoever wins it is absolutely in it.
Yes.
So I'm Georgia, ready for this.
If Georgia loses this game, there is absolutely no way they're in the playoff. You don't get in 2 losses.
No.
So a 2-loss. Would you take? I would take a 2-loss Georgia team over 1-loss Ohio State.
You would personally, yeah, you would. I would too,
Georgia,
but it won't happen.
I mean, I would too, honestly, because Ohio State.
They would burn that fucking college playoff panel to the fucking ground.
Because what's our bad loss this year? What's our bad loss? LSU.
LSU. Yeah.
Okay. Is that worse than fucking Purdue?
Okay, you got me there, but that's not the point.
Is that worse than Purdue?
No.
Okay. That's it. Fuck the Big 12, Big 10 championship game. I don't give a shit if they should beat Northwestern by 100.
If you ask me, I'd put the top 4 fucking SEC teams in the playoff every
year. Goddamn right.
And you'd have a hell of a fucking playoff.
All right, our bias is showing.
Because it's real football, goddammit.
All right.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I did just want to touch on the last thing I wanted to touch on was the next 4 teams outside of the playoff. Obviously, the current rankings are Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Georgia.
Fuck them.
The next
Fuck
four.
the next one.
Well,
Fuck him in the ear.
This is where it
Fuck
gets
him in the
interesting.
other ear.
Oklahoma at 5, Ohio State at 6, Michigan is at 7, and undefeated Central Florida is at 8. Did Central Florida get fucked again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they did.
They are undefeated right now. And somebody in the group, we actually just had a conversation about this. Somebody in the group tried to tell me, oh, they're ranked that low because their quarterback got hurt.
No, fuck that. Ain't nobody somebody, bitch. That was Kamal.
I was trying to give him some anonymous.
Everybody gets shout outs. That was fucking Kamal.
So 2-loss Michigan is better than undefeated Central Florida. And I know Michigan fans are going to be like, well, our 2 losses are against Ohio State and Notre Dame. Fuck all that.
UCF is the only undefeated national champion, and you're going to have them at number 8?
And they have no chance. Because they're ranked that low, they have no chance to get in.
I honestly don't think they're going to win their game.
So
I think Memphis is going to beat them because they lost.
Say chaos happens, and you get say chaos happens. You get a Georgia loss, Oklahoma loss, UCF or not UCF. Ohio State loses. Michigan still sits there doing whatever.
Yeah, because they don't even have a fucking game.
In the winter.
Huh? They don't even have a game. Michigan doesn't even have a game.
No, but UCF has a conference championship game. They could jump them. The only issue with that is, guess who's number 9?
Texas.
If Texas beats Oklahoma, they're absolutely going to jump UCF, and Texas would be number 4.
You know who UCF should, whose place they should be taking is a team that doesn't play a conference championship because they're not in a conference.
Please sound off blow on that. Notre Dame is going to get run off the field. Whoever they play in the first round, and all this.
That's a bye week. That's a first round bye.
Dude, I posted screenshots of their schedule, and there's 2 teams that were 2.
Syracuse and who else? Michigan. They beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Syracuse and Michigan. Perpetually overranked. And next, I know we answered this question a couple podcasts ago. We answered this question a couple podcasts ago, and somebody tried to bring up in the group Xavier, Saban versus Harbaugh. Yeah. I'm glad that we actually put that shit to rest now. Fuck all that. It's over. All right. We got all antsy in our pantsy about some college football.
Somebody said call that bitch khakis.
So we got all antsy about college football. So that's going to be our show for today. We're going to wrap it up with our shout outs and my shitty shout outs.
Shitty shout out. Oh.
Okay.
Really though? Are they really yours? Have you fucking copyrighted them bitches?
I might need to. So we're gonna go with the shout outs.
Hashtag that shit like you did that wait and see.
I might need to. I might fucking need
to, motherfucker.
Do hashtags work on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing that shit a lot more and more now.
We're doing the hashtag shitty shout outs. But before we do that, Aaron, John, we'll start with Aaron. Who are your shout outs this week, man?
Damn, I'm not prepared. I was thinking you guys, John. We don't get blessed with John's presence on here enough.
Okay, so go ahead, John.
It's always nice to do. No, I'm saying it's. I'm shouting him out.
Oh, okay.
Part of my shout bitch. Out. Let me have my moment.
If you listen, Jesus.
Fucking host, don't even listen.
Just trying to make sure he's sitting in that chair before it fucking falls to pieces. That wicker furniture he's sitting in there, whatever that is.
It's gonna get up, look like a honey baked ham.
Yeah. Anyway, but shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Pat, who's not here. The whole group. You know what? Shout out to the soon-to-be 9-3 Chicago Bears playing in the Big Apple this weekend. So good luck to you guys out there. I'll be watching.
And John?
I'm going to return the favor, man. I'm going to shout out to my man Aaron here because we are now taking over the Instagram for Sports Wars and Twitter for Sports Wars. They are both Sports Wars GG. If I'm not mistaken, the Instagram is Sports Wars _GG, and I think Twitter is. I'm fucking up because I don't have these right in front of me.
Twitter is just Sports Wars GG.
Yeah, man, give us a follow, man.
GG.
We're trying to get these bitches going. And we're, between that, the like page and the group, we're trying to get these things pumping. We actually made a UCF Memphis post for Instagram, and a UCF player actually liked the post. So that I thought that was pretty dope.
Hell yeah.
So that's my shout outs, man. I'll let Roy have his shitty ones, his little rosebuds, and then appreciate y'all having me on.
Oh yeah. I'm actually going to start with the non-shitty shout-outs first. I do want to shout out everybody that likes and subscribes to videos and comments below. We love being engaged, man. I want to shout out the Facebook group. The comments there are always fun. I love arguing. Let's do that shit all the time. Also, please give us a follow on Twitter, on Instagram. That we do pretty awesome shit. John does the graphics. I'll say, and we try to get conversations going. And Aaron's doing his thing, talking shit like always, like we always do. Like I said, we got hooligans and assholes here. That's how we keep around. Now with the shitty shout out portion, I did want to give a special one to the current Cincinnati assistant, former Cleveland head coach Hugh Jackson. Not to kick a man when he's down, but right after he got fired, he threw some shots at Baker Mayfield, and Baker kind of returned the favor this week when Hugh went in for a hug at the end of the game, and Baker was just like, "Nah, fam," and he just like gave him a little quick handshake, just keep him at a distance. Not to mention Demarius Randall, who intercepted the football and then ran over and gave it to his former coach. If we're keeping track of wins and losses, and you know that we fucking are, the Cleveland Browns currently have the exact same amount of wins as Hugh Jackson did since Christmas Day of 2016. In the last month, Cleveland's got just the same amount of wins as Hugh Jackson had almost 2 years.
Same amount of wins as Green Bay right now too.
Yeah, well, overall they have the same amount of wins as Green Bay. How awesome is that shit?
Dude, they went in there and blew the doors off of Cincinnati, bro.
That's what I'm saying, man. With the right coach, there seems to be a lot of guys kind of coming out of the woodwork to say, "Hey, I want to coach in Cleveland." So they've definitely got the right pieces in place. I think with the right coach in place, they could definitely do some big things.
You got to be a bit of an asshole to root against Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean dude, that's like it's like greasing the steps at an old folks' home and pulling a fire alarm. Like, what the fuck?
Oh man!
Well,
before y'all run down this rabbit hole, this actually should have been my shout out, and I think you guys will be fine with me saying this, but I'd like to give a special one to an Instagram account. You can find the Instagram account. It's JGG4, the number 4 life, JGG4 life. And it's actually a Jeremy Geeks and Gamers for Life fan page that someone took the time to make. And it's, even in the description, it says Jeremy fan page, Geeks and Gamers. So yeah, it was an account set up as a Jeremy fan page. Everybody knows Jeremy from YouTube, but this person's not only shouting Jeremy out, they're shouting out Sports Wars. They're making posts, of our Sports Wars podcast and promoting all of us. So I wanted to take the time to tell, I believe it's a lady. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but
She's the one that called us hooligans and assholes, which
Right.
we all thought was
Which
pretty
was great.
funny.
Yeah.
I think Pat started that, and then
Pat started it, but she made that. She made a cool
graphic.
picture of us.
We decided to embrace it. So
Gotcha.
So
I just wanted to
hashtag hooligans and assholes.
we wanted to thank you for making that post.
Oh
yeah. About us on the Jeremy page. So give her page a follow. Again, it's JGG for life. So give her a follow as well as us, if you don't mind.
All right. With that, we're gonna close down the episode for the night. And once again, thanks for listening. We'll see y'all again next week. Fuck Tom Brady.